Okay, for this chapter study, we're going to talk about some funk. Now, funky music's one of my favorites. I definitely like a lot of old school funk, James Brown, Parliament, Funkadelic, Sly and the Family Stone. I like all different kinds of funky stuff too, all the way up to modern times, and a lot of different ways we can get funky with our guitar. So for this chapter, we're going to talk a little bit about some cool, jazzy, funky chords, and they're all fall under the dominant 7 umbrella and little minor. We're also going to talk about some ghost notes and how we can use rhythmic strumming and percussive concepts to add to our funky feel, and also talk about some laid back and swung feel, so we're not super straight all the time. So we'll explore both of those kind of feels too. Okay, now first of all, I'm going to give you a handful of chords, and some of these are some of my favorites to play some funky music. They're also good for different styles too. You could play jazz and blues and rock and pop with them too. Okay, now the first one's going to be an E9. Now an E9 falls in the dominant 7 family, so it relates to our E7, but we're going to put the 9th in there, and it's going to give us a little color tone, kind of an extension. The 9th is basically the second note of our scale up an octave. So if I were to just think of an E scale, my second note would be an F sharp. I'm just going to put an F sharp, but up an octave, and this is the sound. Okay, so I've got my middle finger on the 7th fret 5th string. Index is on the 6th fret 4th string. Ring finger gets the 7th fret 3rd string. Pinky gets the 7th fret 2nd string. Now, since it's an E, you can have both your 1st and 6th string ringing. It's your E9, totally movable chord, so we could bump pretty much all these chords, except for I think just one of them can go into any keys. If I just scoot up, that's an F9, F sharp 9, G9, and so on and so on. Now for the second example, it's another E9, but this one's going to have a ring finger bar concept on it. So now I've still got my middle on the 7th fret 5th string. Index has the 6th fret 4th string. My ring finger is going to bar and get the 7th frets on the first 3 strings. And I can have my low 6th string ringing, and that's your barred E9. Okay, the third example is an E7 sharp 9, sometimes called the Hendrix chord if you've ever learned Purple Haze and some of his other jams. It's a great chord. This is definitely one of my favorites too. Sharp 9, we're going to take that F sharp and sharp it up to a G natural, which is also our flat 3. So this chord kind of has a duality to it. It's a little bit major vibe, and it's got some minor kind of tones in there too. Okay, for your E7 sharp 9, just think of that first E9. I'm going to put my pinky up another fret. So I got my middle finger 7th fret 5th string, index is 6th fret 4th string, ring finger is 7th fret 3rd string, pinky gets the 8th fret 2nd string, and you could have your E strings ringing if you like. Okay, now for an E minor 9, if you think back to our first E9, I'm going to scoot my index finger back a fret to make a flat 3rd for this chord. Okay, now for this one, I got my middle finger again, 7th fret 5th string. My index is now on the 5th fret 4th string. Ring finger and pinkies are on the 7th frets on the 3rd and 2nd string. You could have your open E strings ringing. That's your E minor 9. Now, if you are going to bump these chords around, you're going to want to probably mute your 1st and 6th string. Sometimes your 1st string might sound nice depending which key you're in, but I'd recommend muting your 1st and 6th string if you're going to start to bump around that chord. Okay, for an A9, I'm going to be working off of our A7 bar chord, and I'm just going to put my pinky up on the 7th fret 1st string. I'm going to grab the note B, that's my second note in the key of A, and it's going to be up a couple octaves here. It's going to turn it into that 9th sound. Okay, for this one, I've got my dominant 7 bar chord, so index finger is on the 5th fret 6th string, ring finger is on the 7th fret 5th string, barring to get the 4th string on the 5th fret with my index, middle finger gets the 6th fret 3rd string, barring to get the 5th fret with my index on the 2nd string, and then pinky gets the 7th fret on the 1st string. There's your A9. Okay, now for an A13, just take your pinky and bump it to the 7th fret on the 2nd string. Okay, now for a 13th chord, still in the dominant 7 family, but we're going to incorporate the 6th note up an octave, and your 6 is the 13th. Okay, now for an A minor 9. If you just think of a regular A minor bar chord, I'm going to take my pinky and bump it to that note B, that's my 2nd, which is also the 9th. It's going to give me an A minor 9th now. Okay, now for this one, I'm borrowing my 5th fret. I've got my index finger, 5th fret 6th string, ring finger is 7th fret 5th string. I'm borrowing to get the 5th frets on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string, all with my index, and then pinky gets the 7th fret 1st string. Real nice minor chord with an extension. Now there's also, since we're in the key of A, we can incorporate our open A string. And for this one, I'm just going to bar with my index now to get the 5th frets on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. And I'm going to use my ring finger to get the 7th fret on the 1st string. I can have my open A string. You could even have your open E string in there too. I'm going to start that one on my A string. So there's your A minor 9 without the full bar chord. Okay, now let's start to talk about some patterns and some strumming. Now for number 1, we're going to have a quarter note, just an open E string on beat 1. We're going to hit our E9 chord on beat 2. Now you could release your chord, but I recommend also keep your fingers in the mix. You don't have to fully lose your chord shape sometimes. So as long as we can just mute those strings, that's going to be the concept for beat 3 there. So I could have my hands fully flat, or I could still kind of have that E shape in there. Because on beat 4, we're going to hit another E9. So sometimes the less movement of your fingers could be good. Now here's number 1, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now, if we're thinking straight, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. If we start to swing it a little bit or lay it back, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. I'm going to play number 1 with more of a laid back feel this time. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. Kind of showing you the fun with playing different rhythmically feels, straight, laid back, all the way over to swung. So there's also some cool territory in between. It's kind of those in between feels that sound really great for funky music, reggae too, other types of music. A lot of things to explore between those two rhythmic parameters. Okay, for number 2, we're gonna this time work off of our E7 sharp 9. On beat 1, we're gonna have those muted 16th notes, 1 E and a. We're going to hit our E7 sharp 9 on beat 2. And on beat 3, we're going to have 2 bass notes, 2 8th notes with our open E string. And then we'll hit our E7 sharp 9 for 8th notes on beat 4. Okay, now you're going to notice I'm giving you a lot of down strums for the chords and the bass, and then our rhythmic 16th notes and rhythmic 16th note variations are going to have some downs and ups in there. Okay, now here comes number 2, and for this one I'm going to start off with that laid back kind of swung pocket. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. Now if I were to play that straight, 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay, let's go ahead and take it to number 3. Now we're going to work with our E minor 9, and I'm going to start off just with our chord on beat 1 as a quarter note. Beat 2 is going to be those muted 16th notes. We'll hit our chord again on beat 3, and then on beat 4 we'll just have a quarter note, open E bass note. Okay, here comes number 3, and I'm going to play this one straight. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay, now here's number 3 with more of a laid back feel. 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay, for number 4, we're going to work off of our A9 chord. We're going to start off on beat 1 as a quarter note. On beat 2, we're going to play a 8th note and 2 16th notes. It's going to sound like this, 2 and those will be all rhythmic, percussive, muted notes. On beat 3, we'll play our chord as 8th notes, so we'll hit it 2 times. And then on beat 4, we'll have muted 16th notes. Okay, now for beat 2, I'm going to recommend a down, down, up for that rhythm. Now I'm going to start this one off with that laid back feel. 1, 2, 3, E and a 4, E and a. Okay, now here's straight. 1, 2, 3, E and a 4, E and a. Okay, for number 5, we're going to work off of our A13. We're going to have 16th notes, but we'll have all chord on beat 1. On beat 2, we're going to have 8th notes. We're going to play the chord on the downbeat of 2, but we'll do a muted rhythmic hit on the and of 2. Go back to our chord for 16th notes on beat 3. And then on beat 4, we're going to have that rhythm that we just played with the 8th note and the 2 16th notes. We're going to play the chord on the downbeat of 4 for the 8th note, and then the 2 16th notes we'll have as muted ghost notes. Okay, here comes number 5, and I'm going to start off with this one straight. 1, 2, 3, E and a 4, E and a. Okay, here's number 5 with a laid back feel. 1, 2, 3, E and a 4, E and a. Okay, for the last one, number 6, we're going to work off of our A minor 9. I'm going to be doing the A minor 9 with the full bar chord. On beat 1, we're going to have our newer rhythm from this chapter. It's going to be the 2 16th notes with the 8th note. It's going to sound like a 1 E and those will be all rhythmic ghost notes, muted. On beat 2, we'll have 16th notes, all chord. On beat 3, we'll have 16th notes, all muted. And then on beat 4, we'll have 8th notes for our chord. Okay, for number 6, I'm going to play this starting off with the laid back feel. 1, 2, 3, E and 4, E and. And then here's number 6, straight feel. 1, 2, 3, E and 4, E and. Here's number 6, straight a little faster. 1, 2, 3, E and 4, E and. So have fun with these funky rhythms. They're definitely a cool part of guitaring that I love to do. Funk is kind of an attitude too, so I recommend check out some funky bands, and I hope you dig it.